bad Mary for that too sweet plan. Welcome all you four-color funny book aficionados. This is U.S. Comics Cast, HQ for all things comic book related. I am John Rivera, the CEO and co-founder of U.S. Comics. Ho, ho, ho.
And that must make me your COO, the other co-founder, the other co-host, your favorite hybrid panda in all the multiverse. And as if my Ghostbuster fame needed to grow, I am a featured player in this week's All Ego Ethan Page vlog.
Yes.
I am unofficially sponsored by Pabst Blue Ribbon, which took it from 35th in my favorite beer line to number one with a bullet.
Wow.
I'm Charlie
You
Rivera.
just showed how cheap,
Yeah,
how easy it is to buy your love. Why am I wasting literally thousands of dollars over the years buying you just like little tokens of affection over all this time? What a waste.
I'm like a drug dealer though. Up front, inexpensive. And then I get more and more expensive as you get addicted to the flavors that are Charlie. The flavors of Charlie, by the way, are just as smooth and refreshing as Pabst Blue Ribbon, available literally everywhere.
There goes
No?
my appetite. I really appreciate that, Charlie. Thankfully, there is plenty going on in the world of four-color funny books and its associated going-ons to distract me from that grossitude. We have things like Spider-Man early reviews coming in, and they are
Early spoilers. I'm diving, ducking, dodging, and dipping.
I couldn't tell you. I am pulling a full Charlie, a la Ghostbusters, kind of hiding myself away, head under the blankets, refuse to poke out, like a proverbial Puxatawny Phil avoiding my shadow. That's right. I went there. So I'm very much staying away from it. But the early quote unquote reviews come in. The nice thing is that people, as much as they are desperate to, cannot come up with something negative to say, whether it's because that's how they actually feel or they know they will be instantly smacked down by the legions of arachnid fans. I don't know. Also, as well as Santa season is right around the corner. Shipping be damned. Get it done. It's coming whether you like it or not. But also as well as not the rumor mill per se, but like opinions are flying around all over town as if somebody left the gate open in the Central Park Zoo. And I am talking about Black Panther. Specifically,
Yes.
I am talking about the potential or even the concept of recasting rather, the role of T'Challa. Have you caught any of this chatter going through the air?
You know, it's so funny you bring this up, and I haven't really heard people talk about it for
You're
months.
kidding.
But
Oh,
the first wave of it when they started pre-production even for Black Panther 2 Electric Boogaloo, I'm assuming it's being called.
no, that's incorrect. It's
That's
Wakanda forever.
that's where the conversation first kind of came across my radar, and it kind of from inception has been a very, very passionate conversation. I know I have fallen into both camps at different times. What are you feeling about it, man?
Well, first and first, mostly, like most things, I'm really trying to make a concerted effort to, rather than leaping to an opinion, kind of get more so the experts weighing in. So, much like you, when we first lost,
Chadwick?
Chadwick Boseman, of course. I was gonna say when we lost the lead character of the movie, naturally the sequel needed to be greatly restructured, and the producer Nate Moore was vehemently talking about, no, we're not only we're not going to recast for this particular iteration, we're never going to recast, right? So T'Challa's story, though it really only just began, this was even before the animated version that we did get ultimately with the multiverse craziness. Um, he kind of said outright, look, I spoke to Coogler, and we determined within minutes, no, it's never going to happen. So I didn't need to develop an opinion at that point. It was more so like, oh, well, that store is closed. It's just not going to happen. They're going to move on, and then naturally we all went to that place of, okay, well, what's going to happen? It's because it's T'Challa is gone. It's
Yeah,
not Black Panther.
exactly.
So we
The
have his
mantle
sister. We
lives.
have multiple people that could potentially step in. So I don't know. I mean, with all these voices happening, and obviously that has very much changed recently. We're getting like alternate views, like the Coke Pepsi challenge. Pepsi is now coming back with a vengeance. So have you caught wind of this, like these new voices
I have
screaming out recast? And I'm not just talking about Ellis, I'm talking about the other people.
I uh, I fell very quickly into one of those classic people hated on the internet, but my opinion changed a lot
Hmm.
um, in the time Chadwick's been gone and Black Panther 2 has been in production. It boils down to two things with me because I haven't
Yeah.
caught much of the flip flop, but I'm curious to hear about it. For me, I love Chadwick Boseman's performance.
He's a wonderful, wonderful actor.
I think his legacy is tremendously secure.
Sure.
I do not think that the character of T'Challa is as secured of a legacy. That movie made an incredible amount of money for a bunch of reasons. One, it was dope. Two, it was a lot of fun. Three, it was a Marvel flick. Four, it looked a lot different than superhero movies we had seen before by virtue of the actors being cast. And that movie has become tremendously special to a lot of people, myself included,
Right.
in that pile.
Hmm.
I think it would be such a shame if we never got to see a live action T'Challa again. That character is special. That character has so many stories to tell. And
Right.
my
Well, I agree with
instinct,
you because obviously his comic book life we know so thoroughly. But my question to you, Charlie, was, and you're on record. Like I get where you're coming from. Nope. I mean, bury the lead, but that's cool. My question to you was, have you heard all of this uh tide coming in of recast? That's what I'm asking you, because
yeah, I
it
haven't.
to me it hit me out of the blue. All of a sudden it seemed like the only thing that was in the air in regards to Black Panther, well, there were two things, but I'll get to the second thing too. So you haven't heard, like
I
that?
haven't
That's
heard.
news
I
to you?
haven't. Yep,
All right.
complete. I don't know if I've just
So
been in this avoiding Marvel spoiler
yeah,
place, but
it didn't happen in AEW, so I can understand. Look, you've had your priorities elsewhere. There were no ghosts involved, so I totally do understand how you could have potentially missed it. So, the bottom line is there is a huge petition, and as we all know, we are in an era of fans get what they want.
mm-hmm.
Spoiler free. Anyone who is up to date. Uh, by the way, happy Comic Book Day. We avoided that.
Oh, happy
Um,
comic book day.
thank you, sir. Anyone who is up to date on Hawkeye knows. Again, spoiler free. Fans get what they want in this day and age,
That was just my
if never
petition.
before. Yeah,
I screwed you, Marvel.
it
That was just
was
my signature
it was
over and over
only
again.
Charlie. He has 72 names, so it's understandable how you fell for it. But there's a huge petition for T'Challa to be recast for exactly that reason. Poor Storm is like, I need a man. I need to get my swear on. Also, then that's exactly how Storm
Otherwise, they'll
sounds.
have her
So
bang Wolverine, and nobody wants that.
she's Aurora's the only one who has stayed away from that little furry midget. Keep it that way, kid. Otherwise, the Mohawk is not going to save you.
Oh no.
But Stan mentioned in comments, and we can bring that over now, Charlie. Even Chadwick Boseman's own brother, and as we know, brother decree supersedes everything else.
At least in our
Um,
world.
his own brother said that, you know what? Not only would I like to see that role of T'Challa recast and have that story be continued to play out in the extended MCU story arc, but that Chadwick himself would have wanted that. And ultimately, I would say this: I also had a change of heart, and that's honestly, I think that says a lot about kind of everything that's going on in the world. Where for the first time in maybe my entire life, I can say, you know what? I changed my mind. Like sometimes when you go all in, you're like, nope, it's my way or the highway. And now it's easy enough to be like, yeah, you know what? Maybe not. Because at first I would have said, no, 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 don't recast it.
It felt like sacrilege.
Forget it. It absolutely did. It felt like a stupid question. When he first passed and they said, should he recast? You didn't even let him finish the sentence before you came across with a fresh one. And now I'm being swayed. I really am being swayed. My final decree has not come down, and I realize that's what they're ultimately waiting for.
They are. You are the equivalent of Hamilton and that fucking election in the third act.
You're
I know it was
welcome.
only 2 acts. It was just a long show.
The third act of Hamilton, a lot of people know, is deciding whether T'Challa should be recast.
It's like a special feature. You got to pay extra.
Yeah, no, it's a little pricey, but what are you gonna do? So chat's weighed in, and even so let me ask. Stan is here joining us. Stan, the man, is joining Ellis, two of our very fine creators.
On Facebook. If you're on Facebook, go ahead.
Yeah,
hit that like button
or
that
Paul
reaction.
is here,
You bastards.
keeping the YouTube very relevant. So let me ask you guys. I mean, and anybody else who cares to join in, hit us up on the Rotary. Nextel, Chirp, whatever you got to do. Like what are the fans out there, really clamoring for? We're hearing the loud voices. We're hearing the petitions. We're hearing the family members. We're hearing what the brass has to say, the money of MCU has to say. But like so Ellis is in the recast camp. Stan, what do you think? Do you agree with his brother, which, as we know, is the most important thing? That we should recast, and what are even the pros and cons of both? We'll play lawyer for me, Charlie. Go ahead, put your wig on again for your barrister act from before. Play the part of prosecution. Tell me why potentially we shouldn't recast.
I think the big elephant in the room right now is that no major Marvel character up until this point, War Machine, I apologize in advance, but no major character has been recast yet. So this
conversation, Your Honor. Objection, Your Honor. I have a big green elephant in the room that would beg to differ.
Well, but again, I don't think Hulk counts either, because those.
Of course he does. Everyone knows that the Incredible Hulk was indeed the first movie of this new extended Marvel universe.
But come
on. It wasn't Iron Man. It was Hulk.
What are you talking about? It was
Edward Norton's Hulk. Is the first canonical, that's right, movie in the extended Marvel universe. I'll give you a second to go ahead and look it up, and I will fill.
Tony shows
I'll go
up
ahead
at
and fill.
Tony Stark shows up at the end of Incredible Hulk. So his movie already came out, I think.
Nah, I think Hulk came first.
I'll check.
He's a one-hop jump.
I no, I think honestly it's really only War Machine. And don't get me wrong, Incredible Hulk is absolutely considered part of the Marvel Cinematic
Right.
Universe, but
So
like
so regardless of this that little
that's a
minor
War Machine
detail,
issue of you
that
being so aggressively wrong and cocky,
see
you piece of garbage.
this is classic Charlieism. He's gonna go ahead and take the reroute and change the actual detail that we're speaking about. He's like, see, I won. Let's move on to a different topic. No, you're wrong because Ed Norton was indeed replaced. So if you can replace, and Ed Norton didn't even have all these other Marvel characters around him the way that Chadwick did. So if I would argue, if you can replace Ed Norton, who fucking wrote a good portion of that script uncredited, you can
Much to the
replace.
chagrin of the studio.
Yeah, you can replace. Well,
But I think the difference, though, John, is
yeah.
that actors have been the couple of actors that have been replaced, was because the studio was like, no, thank you. With Chadwick, it's a tragedy. We lost someone that we loved.
Yeah, but
So I
it's
think
not
the
because of a
instinct.
look a business. Then they're a business, and granted, what they do gives us a lot of
May
joy and
2nd
creates.
versus June 13th, by the way, Iron Man beat out Incredible Hulk.
All right, good. So I'm still right. My greater point still counts. But I appreciate the cut in. What the hell was I saying? It's gone now. It's
Good,
gone now.
because I hated that point, because it's
Yeah.
about me being right. I think,
Anyways,
and again, the chat seems pretty confident in their feelings that the world needs T'Challa's story to be told, because a passing of the mantle is a whole different sort of story. It's a
well, sure, and
there's a
that's
different
more
weight
than
to it.
that's more than just a restructuring of whatever Wakanda Forever was planned for. That's a complete rewrite. And a lot of people were talking about, okay, well, so then the natural thing that's going to happen is Letitia Wright's character is going to become the next Black Panther, which would have been just fine, but without getting into all the politics of it all.
She might be an asshole.
Well, no, not even that. It just be there are big issues. She hurt number one, she hurt herself very bad on set. And I'm not talking about like a Harrison Ford situation where like the Millennium Falcon door like hurts his leg, or he's got an emergency crash land on the golf course. Like she got hurt where they said you got to go home, you don't do anything. We'll see everybody in a couple of months. It was like a big deal.
Yeah.
And then you factor on top of that all of the COVID vaccination stuff, and this movie started production before Disney's vaccination mandate, and she's very publicly said, "No, I'm not going to get the vaccine. I'm not going to get the shot." And obviously, again, things change on a daily basis, but her status, if you say, "Okay, we're now going to put a franchise on you," and there's any guff, so to speak, that can be problematic. So I don't look, narrative aside, I don't see them saying you're aces, kid. Take this franchise and run with it. I really have no idea what to expect. I really
Yeah,
don't.
it's and there are certain things that the chat brought up M'Baku potentially taking the mantle, but that first
I
movie,
don't see it.
the
I
first
did
movie
hear
made
one rumor that would tickle Charlie's undercarriage, but what were you saying about the first
Daredevil's Black
movie?
Panther. No, but what I was saying is that first movie made some very important points about specifically how special T'Challa was.
Yeah.
And
And they've
there's
doubled down on it with all of the what ifs.
my God,
Like they
yeah.
said, it's not just that
Not
he's
only is
Black Panther. You could take this cat, you could take him and put him almost in any circumstance, and he's gonna come out on top. He's one of those guys. So even more, T'Challa is bigger than Black Panther, which is crazy to say out loud, but I'm a crazy kind of guy.
Well, it's the same. It's the to jump back a little bit, but certainly in the same vein. The problem with mantles or titles
Yeah.
being exchanged, the question becomes like, what is the most important thing about, let's say, Superman? Because
Yeah.
I happen to be very excited
The
for
underwear. It's the red underwear
it's
is the
the red
most important
underpants
thing.
that they keep
Get
throwing
it
away.
right.
For me though, it's like with specifically Superman, Kal-El is this character I love and hold in such high regard. I hold him above all other heroes that exist.
Yeah,
That doesn't mean that I don't like other people who've worn the S. That doesn't mean I'm not very interested to see what another character as Superman would
yeah,
be like. But there's always going to be part of me that's like, well, Kal-El, Clark Kent, that combo, that Superman trifecta, that's like the story I'm super, super in love with. Doesn't mean I can't fall in love with other stories, but it
sure.
means anything else is going to feel a little bit less than. And that's the fear with a new person taking over the mantle of Black Panther. I don't know if I left the Black Panther movie being like, hot damn, the title and the vague gimmick of Black Panther is rad. It was, oh, T'Challa, who I again fell in absolute
Well,
love with from his appearances.
the entire plot was about the Black Panther mantle. So they made the distinction for us. Look, there's Black Panther, and then there's T'Challa as an individual, and that's what I think the argument is. We can tell Black Panther stories, till we're blue in the face. We can tell, past Black Panther stories from ancestors who have had the mantle. All the people we saw up in the tree, all the cats we saw
Yeah.
up in the tree in that sequence, those stories are still out there. Those are waiting to be told potentially in one method, one manner or another. But it's specifically T'Challa's story, which has so much meat on that proverbial bone that's untold. That again, we know from the comics that can be adapted. And to me, I think um, a bigger like indignity would be to say Chadwick Boseman can never be replaced. He's not being replaced. He's tagging someone in, right? He's
Yeah.
like the proverbial tag in because T'Challa has a lot of story to tell, and to just take those stories and give those to another character, whether it's whomever would to me seem very, very wrong, even more so than recasting the role.
And
That's
also
just how I feel. But that's
it's
also subject to change. You know how it
it's
is.
very, very difficult to explain T'Challa's absence. If they told me the next Black
No,
Panther movie was going to be this
they have
awesome
to
movie,
explain it. They have to
but
explain it.
the only way they could have avoided it if they were like in the 70s, we're going to tell you a 70s story about T'Challa's dad, and it's going to be an era piece. Like, yeah, you can avoid the question for a little bit. But are they going to
Yeah.
go the road of like, well, he died when we weren't watching him?
To have him
That seems
die
wrong.
off screen. Look, I mean, there are, believe it or not, there are more talented creators than even us. So someone I'm sure could do it very effectively, very entertaining. That's a cup. What are you showing us?
Ghostbusters took a very interesting path with cast
Well, yeah,
issues
but that's also
due to death,
very,
but
yeah,
it was
very
also
specific.
it was also met with a lot of hate. There's a lot of people who hate the decisions that were made in Ghostbusters
Are they?
3.
Because like
I mean, not people who
172 billion people.
not people that pay to go see movies, people who complain on the internet.
Gotcha. Yeah,
I just think
trolls notwithstanding.
it becomes high risk, high reward. The one thing I will say that I love about this ongoing conversation is no one can say that Black Panther as a property is unimportant or not worthy of the same sort of attention that a Spider-Man, an Iron Man, a Thor. Like the one thing that needs to be addressed or commented upon is that character is now in the big leagues, and that wasn't the case before Chadwick, and that's something to celebrate too. I just happen to think the way to celebrate it is to keep that character in the zeitgeist. People need different types of characters to look up to, and I think T'Challa is one of those characters. No one will be Iron Man quite like Tony Stark. No one will be Black Panther quite like T'Challa.
Agreed. Cheers to that.
I
Cheers
think
to
the
that.
only people that disagree probably are stupid idiots. Are probably stupid idiots. While you're sipping, we're about that 25-minute mark, John. Any last comments about Black Panther?
No, no, my brother. I think you said it all. The bottom line is that if anybody has something to say, you know where to say it. You can say it here in chat. You can go ahead and say it on any of our social pages. If you're smart, you've already given us a follow. You're checking out what we're doing on the regs. If you're just joining us, now is that opportunity to choo choo get on board because we are not slowing down at this point moving forward. But no, Charlie, I think you make a good point. I know how I feel at this particular date. His brother has chimed in. The powers that be have chimed in. Most importantly, the people have spoken. But we'll see. I'm anxious to see the sequel. We're going to be getting it about this time next year, so we'll be talking about it then, I'm sure. Let's see where it goes, man. I'm
Yeah.
open to anything.
And if there's someone out there who's saying like, "Ah, gives a fuck about Black Panther," you're a liar. Just like a toy peddling, goofy old sumbitch named George Lucas, because we all know one thing above all else. If there's an
Respect.
absolute truth in this world, the absolute truth is Han shot first. Put him
Damn
up, baby.
straight. First and always. Clink.
Kilinky.
Salute.
Oh boy.
So good.
Ellis wants to know about that bad Mary shirt. You'll hear all about it in about 25 minutes, Ellis. But until then,
LSU
John,
stay
dear
tight.
John, dear John, hit my time, baby.
Charlie, go ahead and start your ish.
So a lot of the Black Panther, T'Challa, Chadwick.
Yes.
These are things that are important to me, and it's a sad thing. I have not had a bad few weeks. I've been mostly very, very happy, but the problem with my personality, amongst many things, is that sometimes, just sometimes, I'm one of those people who finds himself waiting for the other shoe to drop.
Mm,
So Netflix, a constant bringer of joy to me,
sure.
filled my heart once more, only to take it away after I had fully enjoyed it, and not
Like a
even a month.
cruel, cruel mistress.
Just cold blooded. But I, of course, am talking about the recently canceled Netflix live action Cowboy Bebop. See ya, cowboy.
R.I.P.
Man, oh man, do I tend to think the vast majority of people, the stuff they love, a lot of times isn't for me. Sometimes we line up, but very often the consensus on something will be very negative, and I'll stare at my phone and Twitter and social media, and I'll just be blown away by people so aggressively disliking something that I truly, truly loved. I loved the live action adaptation of Cowboy Bebop. And I went on record, Cowboy Bebop, unarguably, is my favorite anime. Not by an inch, by a mile. I think, again, our comment section here on Facebook is hitting all the classic notes. A bad anime adaptation from Netflix. Shocked. Oh my God. Here's the thing. Cowboy Bebop, we didn't deserve ye. That was a show. When I talk about Marvel or DC movies that don't kind of tickle my personal bell, it's because I argue that they ain't got no balls. No one's willing to take fucking chances. Cowboy Bebop's adaptation shot some scenes from the anime verbatim. And it was fucking weird, and it was sometimes hard to watch. And I would agree that some of the episodes stretched out some story ideas a little bit too far, but it was like
Well,
a fucking director's cut.
10,
I'll
10
take more.
episodes. There's only so much. What's funny to me in regards to the vitriol that came through, um, everyone's entitled to their opinion.
Of
In particular,
course.
one might argue that big fans, they're invested. They're invested financially, they're invested emotionally, they're invested time wise, which is the most important currency ever. Their opinions probably mean more, right? So Everyone's entitled to like it, to not like it, to be nonplussed. Um, I agree with you, Charlie. I love, love, love the anime. I also really liked the live action. Was it perfect? In my opinion, no, it was not perfect. Were there certain things that I wish had occurred? Yes, there were. In particular, specifics you ask, I'll tell
Faye's
you.
costume, I get it.
I had no problem with that whatsoever. Like
I
we
was just
do need to
kidding.
be,
She's just a beautiful woman, a wonderful
but I'm
actor.
saying like going into something, we need to be somewhat realistic. And that was one of the ones before minute one of the runtime. I already kind of had an opinion on that as far as what we were going to get, but I thought that a number one, more money could have been spent.
And they spent a shit ton, but you're not
Well,
wrong.
but that's subjective. Shit ton. I mean, that's not a literal amount,
Not
right?
by Disney standards, at least.
Well, again, but truth be told, I'm comparing it to other Netflix productions, and in this day and age, money is the barometer, right? So to me, if Netflix says, okay, we're going to spend X amount on 10 episodes, what that really meant was that this is how much faith we have in this property. So my mind went right back to Death Note
Yeah.
because Death Note also failed spectacularly. And when Death Note did not kind of when they said, okay, this is not going to have legs, there was no surprise to me. And as sad as I was to hear that it was going to be a one and done situation with Cowboy Bebop, I was also not surprised. I was not surprised because of the vibe in the room. I can read the room pretty well, but also from what I was watching, I was sitting there watching it knowing two things. A, we're going to talk about this eventually. And B, they're not spending enough money on this adaptation. This show is going to be in danger of not making it. I really thought that.
I the
Because I'm
moment
smart.
the the moment the feedback was so negative, I wound up with a pit in my stomach because what happened ultimately was Netflix, the money they spent, the money they did spend, plus the people who weren't watching it. And there are still people out there, and I'll never understand it. There are people out there who will truly take a consensus and not even take a nibble. Like you're
What do you
not
mean?
you there are people who were like the reviews came in widely negative, and there are people who didn't even try the first episode. And my suspicion is if you watched 20 minutes of that first episode, I think you would have stuck around for the rest of the episode. And I think you would have tried the next
It
one.
depends on the group. It depends on the group. If you're talking about people who are not at all familiar with Cowboy Bebop, those are the people. That's the group that you needed to advertise to. And obviously, we know Netflix doesn't really do advertising except on their own platform.
Yeah.
But that was missing, as far as I could tell. As far as my personal algorithm, this is a show that Netflix computer should have said John needs to watch this show.
Yeah.
I should not have to turn on Netflix without the Netflix bot saying, "John, watch this," and it didn't.
What
It
I
didn't.
found super strange is the my Netflix algorithm kept recommending the anime to me. And I was like, I know, robot.
Yeah, mine was like continue. I'm like fucking a right, continue. But no, but this is my point is that if you did not know Cowboy Bebop, going into it, it just seemed very weird,
Yeah.
right? It just
Yeah,
seemed
I
like
don't
a weird
disagree.
show. What is, and in particular, like their opening also was like somewhat of a gotcha type moment.
Mm.
Like, okay, we're gonna have like the equivalent of the danger room for X-Men, or like the fucking on Star Trek, where you can go, make it a 50s mall shop for your date with a yeoman from
Yeah.
down below. That was an interesting, and by
You just gave
interesting,
us some insight into your soul that was the example
yeah,
you
no, that
created.
that's what I would do for sure. I'm like, hey, Debbie Sue, why don't we go? Let's go for malteds and burgers, plant based, of course. Yeah, no, that's definitely what I would do with that shit.
You know
Um,
what's super
yeah, go
strange
ahead.
about the show in general, um, other than its demise that breaks my little heart,
Hmm.
it's another one that's a victim, partially at least, of
Very little.
circumstance. The budget they had for it ballooned because of John Cho's injury. I think he broke his collarbone doing a stunt. So that was another production like delayed 9 months or something absurd like that. And that money exists. You know, that money has to get burned a little
I
bit.
just think that the production was worth more
Mm,
than it got thrown its way. Now, one can argue that might be the that might be the inevitable cost of Netflix greenlighting things right and left, and they do. Right, to their credit, they greenlight stuff that would not be greenlit anyplace else. Like to the point where even the Larry David makes a joke about it. Like fucking Netflix just says yes to everything. The problem is that they're like, it's not yes forever. They'll pull a ring on it, but they will yank that bitch right back. It's like, it's not gonna work out. Peace. I'll
well,
see you
my
later.
My absolute favorite was Kevin Smith on one of his podcasts, Fat Man on Batman this week. He was like, wait, Netflix cancels stuff after one season? I thought everybody got 2 seasons. I would have done a different story for Masters of the Universe if I thought I only had one shot. And it's another interesting thing about their business model because they will really let people do what they seemingly want to do. I think another big issue, and do me a favor, don't put up Ellis's comment. I want to get to that in a minute.
Oh, you don't want
Um,
me to bury the lead?
I don't want you to bury the
You
lead, so
got
go
it.
ahead, feel free, pal. Um, you got to get over the past, John. That was 2 minutes ago. Um, the one of the other issues with Cowboy Bebop is arguably the best adaptation of Cowboy Bebop has happened, and it was Firefly. Firefly clearly took many cues from Cowboy Bebop and made it specifically for a live action product.
Yeah.
Another thing is there were a lot of people who Cowboy Bebop itself, the anime, it didn't outlive its welcome. They very quickly wrapped up that anime because they didn't want to overexpose themselves. They didn't want to get past their
I've
initial.
overexposed myself a few times.
I
Awkward, especially on a very packed train. Oof.
I know
That red line.
I've seen those lawsuits. It's very unfortunate.
Well, you better
Um,
start paying.
the one thing I will say, I'm very appreciative that we at least got a complete chapter in the live action version of that story. I tend to be very, very grateful when certain things exist because it is, as much as I'll return to the anime significantly more.
Mhm.
I mean, this was such an enjoyable experience for me. Every episode felt
There
like a
was
little warm
nothing. There
hug.
was nothing about the live action that you would have changed.
You know what? My big
That's shocking.
takeaway. No, no, no. I'm still a critical asshole because I did not need that much Julia in my life. I think they when I say that some of the episodes felt bloated, I really kind of mean overexposed. Julia as a character is such a wonderful concept. She's such a great addition. And maybe in 2021, you can't get away with a character exclusively existing for someone to long after them. But
Mhm.
it was better when we didn't hear much from her
Tell me about
in
it.
the anime.
So they did.
um,
So they did that.
I did. I liked it. No, there was structural things I thought were all over the place. I thought every episode, the better runtime for it is that 35 minutes that the anime
Well,
lives
but
in.
you
Because the anime
mentioned
is
it
very quick paced.
before. You mentioned it before that they seem to lift particular scenes directly from the anime. I would argue. I would argue like that was clearly their intention, but there's no mathematical equation that says, okay, an anime or a comic book or anything, it's literally apples and oranges where you can only do the orange version of this apple pie. If you're trying to make orange pie the same way you make apple pie, you're like, they're both fruits. They both have crust. They both went in the oven at fucking 375 for 40 minutes. Like, they're not gonna be the fucking same. And on one hand, you're like, This kind of reminds me of that thing, and they have the same title, and the soundtracks are both on point. For sure, they're not going to be the same. So if the expectation is ever this is going to be a live action mirror image of the anime, then I would argue you were never going to, not you, but a person is never going to be satisfied. They're never going to be happy. They're never going to rub their belly and sit back and say, that was exactly what I wanted. That was just a false, relatively stupid expectation on your part. A live action is a live action. So we really, I think, when we sit down to ingest these things, we need to remember this is based on. This is not, it didn't go through like the cool fucking world machine where a cartoon went on one side and popped out a fucking bomb piece.
Oh, you made a Cool World reference.
Yes,
oh
I knew
God.
it. 50 episodes. I knew I was gonna work Cool World in.
Holy shit! I haven't thought about Cool World ever, and now it's just flooding back to me
all the time.
He bangs a cartoon in that movie. That's so weird. Oh, everyone stop what you're doing and watch Cool World.
Thing he wants to do, dude.
Now that's as good of a lead into Ellis's comment again on our Facebook, US Comics HQ. Ellis writes they don't know who they're making these shows for. Fans of the anime want the anime. Other people don't want anime-based shows. Other than me having a hard time getting that out, I couldn't disagree more. Ultimately, an interesting story and cool characters play in any format. I refuse to fucking believe that I'm the only person who loved Cowboy Bebop who wanted to see another version of it fucking exist. That can't be accurate. I even take umbrage specifically with Netflix.
Shit, that's a quarter.
Saying that Netflix doesn't know who they're making shows for. They're trusting creators to create. So when a creator takes it in a direction that maybe isn't the most popular, that doesn't make it a bad direction or the wrong one. I'm so sick to fucking death. And you brought it up in the first segment when we were talking about Black Panther, where fans get what they want, which is equal parts the best thing and the fucking worst thing. Because
I didn't say that.
We're not always the masses are not always right. And when they do get an inch, they try to take a mile. And I'm a person who every fucking superhero movie I watch, I bitch about the costumes. Because none of them, excluding Christopher Reeve as Superman with his super high booties. I was able to get over his boots going halfway up his thighs. They don't look like superheroes to me. Eternals looked bad to me because I thought those costumes.
You're crazy. What are you talking about?
I hated the way they looked. What
and for the most part, fucking Fashion Week in Milan.
No,
these superhero costumes didn't look right. This is you raise a very interesting point, and I realize
I like the compliment. Let's just leave
no,
it to my good
I'm
comment.
Gonna take that. I'll take that right back because one might argue, and to stay on the Netflix tip, you want to talk about a Netflix failure? Fucking Jupiter's Legacy.
Oof.
Those costumes looked Charlie perfect, right? They looked like they rolled out of the highest caliber.
That costume designer got it.
Yeah. Charlie was like, "Ooh, these costumes! Oh, the fucking show's terrible."
I made the costumes. I sewed those costumes by hand. I've been working for Netflix for years.
Jupiter's Legacy is perhaps my greatest Netflix disappointment, and I'll say to date. And I'm including Cowboy Bebop. I'm including
Netflix. That's not a challenge,
Death
you
Note.
sons of bitches.
So also look, you're talking about anime is particularly difficult to translate into something else. It's a very specific art form, right? So I mean, there are people who have this level of conversation / fight / fucking
Are we fighting?
sausage party. I mean, even within chat, like there are very wildly different opinions about it. But like the going from manga to anime, this same level of like, oh, this isn't right. Oh, this is handled wrong. This
It's
is
a
not what I'm.
tremendous point.
What are you fucking talking about? Now, the converse of that is that you can take something that exists in some other format, and I'm going to specifically reference a fan-made Star Wars anime where it's
Yes.
Imperial pilots getting fucking ready for battle. That is chubby inducing YouTube watching. If you're not familiar with it,
Oh,
watch
so
it.
good.
All you have to do is be a person with a heartbeat. You don't have to be a Star Wars fan. You don't have to be an anime fan. You don't even have to be a John Williams fan. You have to be a certain level of beep bop boop bop 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 fandom. Granted, but who doesn't love a good robot? I'm looking at all you AI around me. Um, it is so awesome. Now that started, clearly we know Star Wars started as live action, and it translated, got turned into this amateur created, I use that term loosely, clearly they were masters of their
Yeah.
craft, but they were able to turn it into one of the most amazing visual short window animes, no dialogue, that I have ever had the pleasure of watching. Now in the meantime, if Star Wars had started as an anime, it would have looked like Visions. And then if we got the George Lucas of it all, we'd be having the same conversation. Ah, this was wrong. Vader was that. It's just an impossible, I think, mathematical equation to work out. I would argue that in order to really appreciate something for what it is, you mentally have to divorce yourself completely from what preceded it. Whatever inspired the variation that you're getting now, forget about it for now. I've fallen into this trap over and over and over. People say, "Oh, did you see Ready Player One? Wasn't that great?" And I have struck them in the face with a closed hand. Ready Player One was good. Good for what? What was it good for?
Oh, the hatred.
And I get so angry, and for no good reason. People who saw it, who weren't familiar with the book, they loved it just fine. Oh, look at Batman on a building. There's a T-Rex in the garage. Yes, all those things happen. Spielberg, blah 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 blah. But the book, though, the book. Look, and I have hurt myself. I took enjoyment away from myself. Why? Why do we do this to each other? I'm not saying anybody's feelings aren't valid. Charlie's feelings are valid. Mine are clearly valid. Ellis's feelings are valid. We think what we think. We feel what we feel. I'm arguing that we can do better for ourselves. It's almost 2022. Do better. That's what they mean, right? That's what this when they say when they constantly tell me to do better. That's what they're talking about.
I hope so.
The transition from anime to live action. Okay, cool. I got it. I'm just saying we can walk around with a smile on our face, unlike what Charlie just had, far more often than we do if we stop consistently trying to make these comparisons. One was better than two. Two was better than 17. The book was better than blah blah blah. Shut up. They're different. There's a reason for it. I'm sad that a live action series like Cowboy Bebop only had the very short lifespan that it did. In the same way that I was very short that you mentioned Firefly. That Firefly had a very short runtime, and that didn't have any of these fist fights over, well, this was adapted from that, this, that, and the other thing. And that was even before the whole Joss Whedon of it all. I mean, they'd be fucking off there now. That's a damn sure. I'm just saying we do this to ourselves. We do it to each other. I think it is so short-sighted. I don't
2022 starting now, but a big theme for me in 2022 is going to be trying to fucking leap into things the way that Miles Morales does in Into the Spider-Verse. Like I'm gonna push all of my
Your
fear.
costume is going to change every 5 minutes, and they're going to
Yeah.
progressively get worse.
How dare you?
Cool,
I,
cool.
I am going to sincerely try to dive into everything. I'm getting myself hyped up on the Spider-Man train. I'm gonna do my best to enjoy Spider-Man, even though he's a son of a bitch and I hate him.
I know, he's so rough. A former prosecutor,
I know
Charlie J.
it's bad.
Jameson.
I will say that considering some of the Hawkeye of this week, leave it spoiler free. If I get a little bit more of that in Spider-Man home away from being home, but I'm home, I fucking you'll
Dude,
see
if
me
you
show
get
up on
us,
this show
if
in a
you get us
Spider-Man suit.
sued by Marvel, Disney, and Sony all at once, it's over, bro. I'm going to
Yeah.
change my name. I'm going to move to Mexico. You're not going to see me again. But Charlie, this was your topic. So final thoughts. We're just about out of time.
I think much like Firefly, much like some other shows that have found their audience far after their demise, I think that there is going to be a lot of people to discover this over the next few years.
Hmm.
And the best thing that could happen for me and my personal slice of fandom is they see it, they like it, and then they find out about the anime and they join me in loving that anime and holding it as sacred text, because I do think the source material is that goddamn good, and the more people that love dope shit makes me happy. So I think if you haven't checked it out, at least check out the first 20 minutes. I think you'll enjoy yourself. And if you only kind of like it but have never seen the anime, watch all of the anime first. It's not that many episodes, and it's goddamn, I think it's like 22. It's rad. It's perfect in my opinion.
It's well worth your viewing time for sure. Also, as well as very much worth your viewing time, one of our lovely sponsors, Sergeant Finesse. You can find him on Facebook Gaming. You can find him on Twitch. Credit where credit's due. He does amazing multiple streams every single daggone day. Outstanding gaming content, supported games, co-streams, giveaways, contests. He's having an amazing contest today. If you are a supporter, you could be a part of that. But if you're not, you are a straight up sucker. Check him out today. Throw him a like, a follow, a share. Consider becoming a supporter. However, if you need to pick me up, do like John do. Follow the White Rabbit over to sneakenergy.com. That's my best Samuel L. Jackson impersonation, by the way. That's as far as it gets. It is Dave Chappelle as Samuel Jackson.
That's the problem.
That's
it's an okay Sam Jackson. It's a perfect Chappelle as Sam Jackson.
As close as I get, ladies and gentlemen. But also, as well as if you want some fresh new gear, like Ellis mentioned, here I'm rocking my exclusive Bad Mary shirt. You can't have this one. This was a very limited run. You got to be on point like yours truly. But you can find some Sarge Finesse gear over at geeksunleashed.com. At Sneak Energy, by the way, use code SGT at checkout. You're going to get a little percentage off for the holidays right now. That code will change after New Year. But over at Geeks Unleashed, use code SARGE at checkout. When the Sarge is on deck, like he is right now, you salute. GG, son Charlie, over to you.
You've already mentioned the shirt, but oh damn am I happy that the world is finding its new sense of normal, because my friends and yours, the incomparable Bad Mary Band, is back to performing. They are having their annual disaster party this Saturday. You're rewarded for watching this show live. 12/18, 8 o'clock if you're Long Island bound. It's over at Mr. Barry's. $10 to get in. You got to be at least 18. But if you are not Long Island bound, or if you can't make it, or if you're listening to it too late, you can find them over on Twitch, twitch.tv/Bad Mary Band. They're on social media at Bad Mary Band. They're at patreon.com. Throw them some money over at patreon.com/Bad Mary. Most importantly, though, my absolute favorite thing, if you want to listen to some Bad Mary right now and you have any music streaming service, you have access to their entire discography. You can listen to the music for free, but then go to their page and go ahead and spend some ducats. Buy a t-shirt. Again, you can't get John's. That was a very limited release. So you got to follow them on social media to learn about those limited releases. Bad Mary Band, they're one of my favorite bands. I think they'll be one of your favorites too.
Nicely done, Charlie boy. Do
It's
us
true.
all a favor. Start my time.
Beep boop beep boop beep. Time started.
You started my time?
I did.
I think actually you may have put in the wrong beep bop boop sequence and have cast us off into the heavens, unbeknownst to the destination. Oh, let me look around. I'm not sure where we are. Could we possibly be lost in space? That is not at all any kind of theme music from any iteration of Lost in Space. But boy, oh boy, fire my rocket thrusters now. Charlie,
Yeah.
have you seen minute 1 of the final season of Lost in Space?
I have not. I didn't
Charlie,
even realize it
you're
came. What's wrong with
fired.
my What's
You
wrong with
are
my
fired.
algorithm?
Netflix, what the hell is going on?
Not
over
only have
there?
I watched season 1 and 2, I've watched season 1 and 2 twice. Like I really like Lost in Space.
Danger, danger, Charlie Rivera.
All I want to do now is write my own version of the Lost in Space theme, though.
Honestly, I just want to get this head-stabbing wrestler over to Charlie's house right now
It's not
and
even
have
funny,
him
it's just
get
mean.
to work. I am very upset with Charlie for not having seen nary an episode of this final season. So again, we're talking about Lost in Space,
The
also
Netflix
as
darling.
well as on Netflix. Now, look, here's a situation where we have yet another adaptation, new version, reimagining is probably more correct, of something that existed in a different, well, a similar format, but a little bit different.
TV
It's not
show-ish.
apples and oranges. It's like cran apples and oranges. Ellis. Always Ellis. Ellis goes for the low-hanging fruit. God bless you. God bless you every time. So, yes, Ellis is indeed correct. Ellis says right here in chat, the movie wasn't that great, and it had Lacey Chabert. It's true.
Shocker. He knows the entirety of Lacey Chabert's IMDb. Oh, I'm so surprised, Ellis. Jesus.
So we have, again, if anyone is unfamiliar with the new Netflix series, again, this is a reimagining. It's entirely, it is, no pun intended, worlds different than the 19 God knows what original series on TV with the bubbly robot just waddling all over the set, you know, chasing pedophiles. Danger! Like we know what danger he was referring to.
Booty danger. Booty danger.
It
Will
was
Robinson.
referring to. But this is very different. This is also very different from the aforementioned by Ellis movie from 1990
the
garbage.
Matt LeBlanc classic. Easy
And
for
he's
me
like-
to say.
He's like, "Hey, robot, how you doing?" And I'm pretty sure he worked one of those in there. I will say this:
Show's canceled.
of all the terrible, terrible things that the 1990 whatever movie did of Lost in Space, perhaps the worst thing that it did was, to my recollection, it was the first helmet move. Like Marvel should be
They
suing.
were like, oh shit, Lost in Space is dope.
Oh my God. Marvel / DC was sitting on their couch surrounded by rodents and giant dogs that talk for some reason, just like rubbing the mental, like, oh, that's a great idea. Jot that down, somebody. Just terrible. What a terrible.
But how will we know who the actors are and how will they emote? Shut up.
We got Joey from Friends. We gotta show his face hole. Anyways, let's put that
His
movie in our rear view.
face hole.
So, starting in 2018, I believe, we got this new version, and it
Lost in space
was,
again.
it was truly one of my favorite sci-fi anythings. I'm talking about comics. I'm talking about TV shows. I'm talking about movies. I'm talking about History Channel specials. Um, it is so well done. It's beautifully acted. The cast is outstanding. The very funny thing about it was because of the hiatus that COVID put on the world, we had young performers for this series who started as like little embryos, basically just walking around, splash, 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 walking around set. And they actually make a mention of it. Freaking who was it? Parker Posey, maybe. She plays the
Dr.
female
Smith.
version of Dr. Smith, but she makes a reference to one of the characters who was a child, a straight up child, having now being taller than her in this most recent season. And again, I will completely avoid spoilers because I know Charlie hasn't seen minute one of it, but it is such a satisfying conclusion. Like they did a
That's
really
fucking
nice
awesome.
job. It was a complete reimagining of what we think we know of Lost in Space, but it was done so freaking well. And also, it was a very good example of telling something within a confined space, saying, okay, this is how many seasons we're planning for. Thankfully, Netflix allowed them that. Um, and this is a story that we're going to tell within that window of time. They did it perfectly. They got from point A to point Z, and they did it in such a way that you got what they were trying to tell us. We understood how the Robinson family changed and evolved and where they're at. We understood all that. All the stuff that got peppered in, the moralistic stuff, the character growth, humanity versus AI. It was Charlie. It was all there, and also as well as Netflix avoided the exact problem that we were just talking about with Cowboy Bebop, also a sci-fi feature. The money that was spent on Lost in Space, thankfully, it was money well spent, but it was so substantially greater, obviously, than what they spent on Cowboy Bebop, that it can only make you think that when you're watching the two, side by side. They're on the same damn platform. It's almost impossible to avoid it. If you watch one, Netflix will recommend the other. That's how they do you. So you can obviously only speak to the first two seasons, but like, what were your first impressions? Clearly, you didn't grow. I
I
mean, the show was not on my radar as a kid. The
yeah.
movie in the '90s, I was familiar with. You got to go neck to something. So yeah, I saw the terrible Matt LeBlanc. Also, Roller Girl was in it. Tom Cruise's ex was in it. Like, there were plenty of people. Um, but yeah, well, like, what were your first impressions? And did you watch it on your own, or did you watch it only because I insisted you watch it?
I am a Netflix original content whore. Netflix always gets one
We
episode
see
out of
it.
me.
We see how you're dressed, bro.
That's true. I was asking for it, but I'll watch. Like if Netflix is like this new series, I'm like I'll watch one just because I've been rewarded far more often than I've been like, why the hell did I watch this piece of garbage? Um, so I was gonna watch it regardless. I won't pretend though that other than Parker Posey, nothing about the announcement got me like excited. I don't like hard sci-fi. I like easy sci-fi. So if you're gonna give
Like
me that
drunk
that
drunk
I
sci-fi?
like
What do you
drunk
mean
sci-fi.
easy sci-fi? What the fuck is
If
that?
you hit me with like a Dune, you better be on fucking point. Cause the minute you're talking jibber jabber and there's nothing good to look at, I'm out. Star Trek has never been able to win me over with their like the whales are in space. Get the fuck out of here. Lost in Space did a perfect job of giving that hard science. They gave me my medicine with lots of candy. Cause every time there was like,
No,
we have to get the ship out of the
nobody
fucking
Nobody gives medicine with candy, bro. You're
Dude, my
taking acid. That's how they're doing you. What
oh,
was that? Was that administered in a parking lot
yeah,
behind the
yeah,
Shoney's?
my
Yeah, no, you.
doctor.
That was drugs. You took drugs.
Oh, that's not a doctor. It's not like an accredited
I mean,
guy.
he's Doctor Feelgood, but no, there's no schooling necessary.
No, but Lost in Space kind of hooked me in that first episode and did such an amazing job
Mhm.
of just kind of time and time again rewarding me for being like, "You sure this is gonna get too much?" And it never does. It walks that balance perfectly. I think Parker Posey is a fucking genius. So like anything she's in, I'm like, yeah. I'll check this out. But the kid actors rocked. I thought the parents were awesome. They
That
always
was
made sure there was plenty
so
of action. Fucking
integral
ruled.
because look, when you're working with, I can speak from experience to this. When you're working with younger actors, obviously it's a challenge because they don't have anywhere near as much training in the craft, right? Now, it's one thing if they're just background running around like dum-dums. In a show like this, they are front and center. They are integral.
Kids on the
One might
poster.
argue, well, I'm saying like one might argue that the show, the property will sink or swim on the little tiny bird-like shoulders of these three young people. In this case, that shit fucking soared like the proverbial rocket ship because they were fantastic young performers that performed well, and the content was outstanding. Now you can say the exact opposite of something like Good Omens, where I loved the IP of it, and I could not get into the fucking show, regardless of how much I'm infatuated by the adult leads, and I totally was like literally your entire request list was all clicked off, and it wasn't even science fiction; it was fantasy, biblical fantasy, but fantasy nonetheless.
Fantasy regardless, yeah.
The younger performers, and this is just my opinion, I'm very smart, but take it for what it's worth. The young performance knocked me the hell out of it. And there was a dog. That's how badly I was taken out of it because of those performances. I'm like, nah, I got to change this. I cannot hang in there. These young people, they're doing me dirty, right? The exact opposite for Lost in Space. They were tremendous. And I'll tell you this, in the third season, spoiler alert, they're able to do even more in this final season. It was just beautifully done. What was your favorite aspect of the first two seasons?
You know, they had me right that
I want to try to play a game if I can determine what level of enjoyment you're going to get out of season 3.
I think my favorite, and I think it was across 2 episodes, but when the ship was sinking and the daughter winds up going into it to get like the fuel rods
Mm.
or some such shit.
Judy, yeah.
That sequence of the water coming in and barely making that's one of my favorite sequences in like all of fiction. I thought it was just perfectly executed, perfectly shot. The
That
drama was amazing. I loved it.
that portion of storytelling was literally my most uncomfortable watch. I still had to watch because I am so
My butthole was in a knot.
galactically claustrophobic to be spoiler alert, to be frozen in water, but like your little spacey suit keeps things relatively okay for a limited period of time because we know the clock's always got to be ticking, otherwise there's no suspense. But like that idea of being like jammed up in frozen water, not being able to move, oh my god, oh my god.
That also the in season 2 they have a very similar like their buggy runs out of fuel and they're just super fucked. And that sequence I remember just being like, "Oh, you fucking kidding me?"
But that's the great thing about Lost in Space. It's almost like it's almost like I was gonna say I was gonna pull out MacGruber, who is the obvious
New movie on Peacock coming soon.
no, but MacGruber is like the farcical version. But we'll use him. Like you can always count on something going wrong within that episode, or even damn Quantum Leap. You know, there's
Yes.
always going to be some shit on Lost in Space. You know, something's going to go wrong, something's going to break. The chicken is going to get away at the wrong time. Yeah, you heard me right. Look, I'm saying this because I wanted to talk about this particular series for two reasons. Number one, I don't hear a lot of a chatter about this series, and it is, in my opinion, so damn good. Netflix, God love you. I know you write checks. I know you say yes. Your green light is almost always on, right? If this was Amsterdam, you wouldn't have any business because you never have the red light on. You've only got the green light on. So please do a better job by pushing out the good material. Don't let the robots. Will Robinson will tell you, don't let the robot do everything. Every once in a while, let a human go in there and say, "Hey, push this series. It's very good. People will want to watch it. You have to let them know about it." I, as was a day one infatuated with the series, I had to find out on the interwebs that it was coming, and then tell all my beloved followers like Charlie, like Sergeant Finesse, "Hey, it's out. Go watch it." Like you good people. Netflix, you got to do better. Do better.
It's so
in 2022.
strange.
That's what do better means, right? That's what it is. I got it.
I don't.
Now I got it. Now I
I'm
got it.
pretty sure. I don't.
I hope the
I'm gonna go
attorneys
with
are
yes.
listening. I got it. I got it. I got it.
Stop sending him emails. Let him out of the house.
Please.
We're letting you around actors again. Are we sure? Did we clear this with legal?
But the other reason, thanks for reminding me for talking about legal. So yes, it's a tremendous series. I am assuming you guys haven't watched it. Go watch it. Thank me later. But also, I wanted to bring it up because it's such a polar opposite of the scenario that we got with Cowboy Bebop. I felt like it was a perfect pairing, right? It was the pepper to the salt. And the funny thing is, even though the transition was series to movie to series, and if it had another iteration, I'm unaware of it, so it may as well have not existed. Whereas Cowboy Bebop went from anime to live action. I don't know if it's something happened in the math between the translations, or what the case might be, or that Lost in Space said, okay, this is our inspiration. We're gonna do this other thing. This is going to be our jumping off point, as opposed to making a beat for beat replica and trying to fool people. I really don't know. I don't know what the answer is.
I think that's a perfect way to distill it, because it truly is the closer example would be like Netflix's Lost in Space is to the original series as Firefly is to the Cowboy Bebop anime. It's like, yeah, the difference is Lost in Space kept its name and the characters have the same names, but it's fucking night and day. And what they tried to do with the movie, not to harp on that, but was the same thing. They tried to use a jumping off point of the series, and they tried
which movie?
to
Lost in Space?
The Lost in Space movie. Sorry.
Oh,
Thank you for clarifying for me. The Lost in Space movie tried to use the same source material, and it collapsed under the weight of trying to kind of modernize. And we're going to make this cool, and we're going to make it so that everyone likes it.
They went all over the place. Now, the funny thing is, too, that on the surface, the Lost in Space 90s movie took far less of a departure from the original, I want to say 60s, but it might even be 50s because it was black and white, the original version, if I'm remembering correctly, 65 something. But where they ended up going in their third act was so far removed that it was
mutants and spiders and shit.
It was so far away by comparison to what the series did, and the series was wildly different, but at the same time totally recognizable as Lost in Space. Now look, we all know Lost in Space, the Robinson family, the fucking Swiss Family Robinson, we know is the inspiration. It like did a Gilligan's Island variation of it.
Did not know that.
All right, way to go. But that's okay, because a very pertinent member of the cast was involved with black sails, which it took me an embarrassingly long amount of time to realize what I was actually watching, what the fucking that was actually a prequel to Treasure Island. I'm like, oh, I thought all of those characters' names sounded fucking familiar.
In the opening credits, it's like 2 years before.
Oh my god, they're like dunk, 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 on the screen. Hey John, are you paying attention? This is a prequel. I'm like, fast forward? What's next? I am talking, of course, about Toby Stevens, who plays John Robinson. He played a very, very important role. I don't want to spoil it if anyone hasn't seen Black Sails.
1965, by the way.
65, nice. I was dead on. Go see Black Sails if you haven't watched it. It's excellent,
awesome,
and wildly different from Lost in Space. If sci-fi is not your thing, but yeah, it was tremendous.
What if those were the only two options, though?
I mean,
you're
they
gonna
though?
watch Lost in Space or Black Sails, asshole?
No, like
sit down.
2 channels on TV. Do you want to watch sci-fi or pirate? It's only those 2. I wanted to watch Dragons. All right, so we got to do the channel like halfway between the 2. Like it's gonna be a little fuzzy, like you're watching porn in 1997, but you can still kind of make out a nipple here and there. Cancel? We'll cancel now?
Whoa,
all right, cool. Anywho,
the weekly canceling is a solid segment.
It's it's tradition at this point.
You got to start apologizing at the end of every episode.
Yeah, they also have a bit where Parker Posey's sister, who she's like a very relevant part in Parker Posey's character, but her sister is freaking who played her sister? Selma Blair. Selma Blair and Parker Posey as sisters is an entirely different spinoff that I want to see, because that is like such perfect fan casting.
It's just them in med school.
Just the whole cast is just dynamite. I hope that robot gets more work.
So
I don't want to see the robot.
That you enjoyed it?
I liked it a little bit. I
expect
really
next time I'm at your house to see like the sheets have been replaced with Netflix Lost in Space.
Netflix, make them shits. If you make them in Queen, I will get them. Do me a favor, give me the. I got a pillow top, so do like the. do like the deep corners. That's how I like to roll.
I think Ellis and I will take the Lacey Chabert version. Just
Ellis
Joey
has some. Not just Lacey, but like the flannel winter sheet version. He's like, oh yeah, it's got a chilly out. Got to break out the flannels.
Oh,
anywho,
no.
that is my
fantastic
to the listening public.
I gotta be honest.
Public. Go watch
I know what I'm doing tonight, man. I'm gonna watch AEW and then I'm gonna stay up and watch a couple episodes of Lost in Space.
It's Dynamite.
Because sleep Dynamite is AEW. Because it's Wednesday night, and you know what that means. But Lost in Space, also very good.
Charlie, even your character voice is not going to bail that awful
I want you
Channel 12 News segue.
As we wrap up the show, again, I told you my absolute. You didn't tell me, based on my 2 favorite moments, the ice ship sequence, and then there's the in season 2 there's like the lava planet buggy running out of gas. How stoked am I going to be about season 3?
It's Lost in Space. You're gonna love it. Shit goes wrong, I promise.
I like it because it's not happening to me. I'm like, I'm not even on the lava planet.
Charlie's like, you guys are in trouble now.
I kind of hope they don't make it out. Now, that would be ballsy if the last episode, they're like, what are we going to do? The lava's dead. Just the fucking Robinson family's toast.
All of a sudden, it just cuts to black and Journey starts playing. Charles like, oh, not again, you son of a bitch.
Oh, no, a Sopranos pull 2. We're not getting better than that, you sons of bitches. Check out Lost in Space. check out my boys Cowboy Bebop, either in anime or live action form. We want to hear what you think about Chadwick being potentially replaced as Black Panther, and you can tell us all over social media. It's US Comics HQ on Instagram, on Twitter, on Facebook. You can hear this show every single Wednesday. The second it's Wednesday, guess what you have access to? Anywhere you can listen to podcasts, you can listen to a brand new episode of US Comics Cast. You can join in on the show itself right here on Facebook, on Twitch, and on YouTube. Make sure you leave a comment. Make sure you drop an emoticon. Make sure you tell a friend so we can keep bringing the show to you week after week, free of charge. All we ask is for your enthusiasm, and we'll get to asking you for money later. But until then, enjoy us not asking you for stuff. That's the best thing. It's free at first, much like drugs. We're very much like drugs, is what I'm implying.
Oh.
You go ahead, and we'll get to the money request soon. But for my dear brother, the CEO, the co-founder, the co-host of US Comics Cast, John. Holy crap. Does he look a little bit like Don Q to you too? John Rivera. I, of course, am your hybrid panda. I am the master of Funktown. I am the mini puff that you've been waiting for. John, there is only one way that we end each and every episode of US Comics Cast. Watch some lovely people how we do the thing we do.
It is so good. No one can possibly have anything bad to say. First, we cut to black and we say, don't stop believing. Just kidding. You turn the power on. You turn the volume up. You tune Bad Mary and open up the window wide and scream out into the night sky. Save me, Space Girl. We out.